name is Aaron Robbins, and I get the pleasure and honor of this opportunity to share some wisdom with you around John chapter 2. And specifically, we're going to be in John chapter 2, verses 1 through 12, continuing our conversation about this idea of commitment. And just talking more about how God has made a commitment through Jesus to love and care for his creation, and in turn, how we can respond to that commitment by living a life committed in return to him. And so we pick up this week in a story. All right, this is, as John tells us in verse 11, this is the first of the signs of Jesus. And so that word is kind of an important way for us to take a look at this. But a sign of Jesus, it just simply means, what John is saying is that he's supporting some claims that he made here previously in chapter 1. And so what's going on in this story here that John is telling us, there's a party that's happening. And it's going well. People are having a good time, things are going well. However, Mary identifies an issue, and that issue is the wine is about to run out. And so in our modern day culture and context, you can kind of picture this as if, like, during the father-daughter dance, the DJ just stops playing music in the middle of it. Not good, right? So this is about to happen, and so she comes to Jesus and lets him know what's going on, and they have a little bit of a conversation there. And so then she looks over at the servants, and then she tells them, "Hey, do whatever he tells you to do." And so in that moment, there's something amazing that's about to happen. And so what's about to happen here is you're going to see the glory of God manifested here in just a minute. And that's part of what John is trying to get us to see here. And so Jesus gives a command to these servants and says, "Hey, go fill these jars with water." Doesn't tell them what he's about to do. And then so they fill these jars with water. They come back. And that's when the amazing part happens. And so here we see Jesus miraculously changes the molecular structure of this water into wine. Pretty incredible, Maybe not as incredible as raising somebody from the dead, or, there are other pretty amazing miracles. But what we see happening here is the glory of God is being manifested through Jesus. And he's giving a sign to support the statements that John is writing about in chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word. Jesus isn't a created being, even though he existed before he was in Mary's womb. He was given birth to by Mary, but he existed before then. However, the support here that's being given is that Jesus is in fact the sovereign creator and ruler of the universe. And an example of this is how he could take something like this that has a structure and creation of this and get it to obey him and turn it into this. He has that power, he has that authority, and that's what one of the pictures that the picture that John is giving us to support the claim that he's making in the first chapter. Pretty amazing thing. In fact, there's a pastor that I like to listen to who calls this liquid glory, right? So this is a good thing. In fact, this should captivate your heart. This should bring a bit of a wow factor to you and cause you to go, wait a minute, maybe he really is. And so here's the thing: we have to go deeper than that. Okay, it has to be more than just us agreeing with it. Jesus is interested in transformation of our hearts. That's what God is really after. By us agreeing with it, we're not really committing ourselves to much of anything. We're just agreeing. It's just an agreement with words at the moment. Okay? So if we take this a little bit deeper, I think John gives us a little bit of help here through an exchange between Mary and the servants and Jesus as kind of the central focal point of this story. And so Mary in verse 5 comes to the servants and she says to them, "Do whatever he tells you." Now, there are two layers to this instruction that she gives these servants. There are two layers or implications for the servants in this moment, right? They need to choose first and foremost, which is the less obvious, they need to choose whether or not they're going to trust Jesus to fix this problem, whether it's worth their time and effort to actually commit themselves to Jesus to fix the problem. And then, of course, the obvious part, they need to carry it out. They need to actually do something to assist Jesus in this. Now, it's not required, right? Like Jesus could have done this all on his own, right? Because if he's the sovereign creator of the universe, he could have picked up the water and moved it over into the jars. Like he could have done all of this himself, but he didn't. Okay? You see, let me tie all this together here for you, all right? The servants in this story, they needed to commit themselves to trusting in Jesus and doing whatever he told them to do. This Jesus being, and they didn't know this yet, they didn't know what was going to happen, but this Jesus being the sovereign creator and ruler of the universe. Okay? Here's the thing, what they didn't know, and what you and I don't know oftentimes, is that they were going to have an opportunity to have a front row seat to the glory of God manifested right in front of them, just simply out of their trust and obedience to God, to Jesus himself in the moment. It was Jesus as the sovereign creator and ruler of the universe and his commitment to love. And you say, well, wait a minute, what do you mean commitment to love? Well, look what happened in the story, in the party. He loved all of these people well. That's why the party got better. Mary's concern was addressed. The wedding party's problem was addressed and fixed. The party got better. It ended beautifully, as far as we know. And so, God is still making his glory known amongst us today, especially when we take opportunities like this to believe in who he is, to trust the story. And he's trying to win back our commitment in doing something with that trust. He wants us to do whatever he tells us. So here's my question for you to consider this week, and even in the weeks to come. But relative to this week, what is the sovereign creator and ruler of the universe saying to you through this story? And what could you do as a result of what you're hearing and seeing? Will you do what he's telling you to do? I want to encourage you to stay with us throughout this series of the Gospel of John, because you'll have opportunities, I believe, several opportunities to see more of who Jesus is and how he's committed himself to the Father to love you well and by doing good for you. And in turn, you can commit yourself back to him by trusting in the things that he says and does, and trusting in him and not yourself. So, do whatever he tells you. Thanks for joining me for this week's Wednesday Wisdom.